recently met with European Union officials to discuss meat production. Several European countries have passed laws that would forbid the ritual slaughter of animals under Jewish and Islamic law. Belgium, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, and Slovenia have all made it illegal to process meat in the Old Testament fashion. In 2011, the Netherlands briefly joined that list. This is SRN News. AAA says gas prices are continuing their downward trend as demand remains low.
As of this morning, the association posted the national average at $3.76 a gallon, 4 cents lower than last week and 2 cents cheaper than a month ago. A spokesman for AAA says global recession fears, coupled with the Biden administration's plan to continue tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve into December, has helped temper oil prices. California still remains the highest at $5.58 a gallon, Georgia with the lowest at $3.16. Rhonda Rockster reporting.
Thousands of people across Haiti are becoming sick with cholera as medical staff struggle to care for them despite dwindling supplies of fuel and water. The number of cases and deaths worry some who recall an outbreak more than a decade ago that killed nearly 10,000 people. Many are dying because they're unable to reach a hospital in time because of a spike in gang violence. It makes it unsafe for people to leave their own communities. This is SRN News.
The following program is sponsored by the law offices of Patrick L. Smith. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Get ready with your legal questions and call Patrick now. 877-943-9673. Again, that's 877-943-9673. The law office is open. And now your host, Patrick Smith.
Oh, hi there, Attorney Patrick Smith Show Nation, and we're with you back live. This is another edition of the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, and you can call in now with your legal questions. Today is Saturday, October 29th. It's just past 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local studio line to call in now with your avenue to the best help you can get on a Saturday morning with legal issues. So call in now with your legal questions. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. You can call in now, and we're always here to help any way we can. If you have a legal issue that developed during the week, you can always call into the Attorney Patrick Smith Show on Saturday mornings, and we will give you the very best legal advice that we can. So again, those studio lines to be part of the show, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673, or email me directly, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. That email address again, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. And of course, as always, you can submit questions directly through the website, attorneypatricksmith.com. Check out archived versions of the show, learn a lot more about me. So check out the website as well, attorneypatricksmith.com. And while we get the first few calls queued up today, I got a couple of special guests with me in the studio. We have with us today John Pfanstiel and his lovely bride, Kelly Cicerek. Did I say that right, guys?
That's good.
All right.
Yes.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. They are with an organization that's going to dovetail wonderfully with the topic we'll be discussing. They're with an organization called Homes Not Hotels IRB, which is .org is the website, homesnothotelsirb.org. You can check out the website, but this is, and for those of you who follow us on social media, you saw that we were teasing this. This is the controversy currently brewing in Indian Rocks Beach regarding short-term rentals. So we'll turn it over to John and Kelly here in a moment. But to give everyone a little background on how this developed and sort of the origin and how we arrived at the controversy as it is today. In 2011, there was an amendment to the Home Powers Act of 1973 that limited the powers of local municipalities to regulate short-term rentals. Now, this was codified in House Bill 883. In 2014, Senate Bill 356 rescinded the preemption of these powers. However, it basically said that there was an ability to regulate if you had regulations in existence prior to June 1st of 2011 regarding short-term rentals. In 2018, the City of Indian Rocks Beach passed City Ordinance 2018-01. And that's where we are today. And we'll get into kind of the details of that ordinance when we talk to John and Kelly and sort of what the city's doing. And just full disclosure, We reached out to the city of Indian Rocks Beach and continue to offer an open invitation if they would like to participate in this show, air any opinions. Also, if you own Airbnbs, maybe not even in Indian Rocks Beach, but in other communities that are having issues, we would love to hear from you and your perspective. So if this is going on in your community, if you're actively involved in one side of this debate or not, call in with your opinion if your neighborhood is somehow being affected by this debate regarding short-term rentals. So if you want to call in and be part of that, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673, or shoot me an email, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. All right, let's go to our first call of the day. Let's go to Largo and talk to Robert. Robert, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, Patrick, how are you?
I'm doing great, Robert. How are you today?
I just had a friend that passed away,
Robert, I'm so sorry.
so I've got two questions. The first one is, I've been told that I'm roundabout here a little bit. Today, the state of Florida issues digital car titles, and he didn't have a will. And his sister is the only heir. So my question is, can she go with me to the DMV and transfer the title into my name all in one step? That's the first question.
Just to confirm, you said sister is the only heir. Can I just verify that with you, Robert? Your friend who passed was not married, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And had no children.
No children.
And his parents were both predeceased, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did he have any other siblings?
No.
So only the one sister. So you're right. The sister is the heir. She would be the heir to the car. I don't know if it would be able to be achieved in one visit. It might be one visit, but sort of two steps. The car is going to have to go to her to then sign over to you, because she does have to receive the car as the heir. And I think that because there is no will, they may require a court order. So they may require a court order putting it in her name, and then as the lawful heir at law, she should be able to receive title and then transfer title to the vehicle to you. But that electronic title thing is the wave of the future. They are doing it. If you want a paper title, you have to go in and you have to specifically request a paper title.
Yeah, and I was told it cost $25.
It just depends on the particular county you're dealing with. I forget what it was when I got mine in Pinellas. That doesn't sound wrong, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where it's just the cost of doing business in the county.
Okay, so a death certificate won't suffice. You might have to get a court order.
Well, she'll need the death certificate too. I mean, she'll need the death certificate, and she'll probably, depending on the value of the car. Do you have any idea what the value is?
$10,000.
So it's over 6. So I don't think you're going to be able to do a disposition without administration, which is sort of a loophole to do a really simple type of probate. You're probably going to have to do a summary administration. If your friend wants advice, your friend's sister wants advice on how to do that, just have her give me a call at the office next week. I'll be happy to help her. Okay.
All right. So let me have the second question there.
Go ahead.
Disposition without administration. Where do we go? To the courthouse? And then how much does that cost?
So disposition without administration in Pinellas County is normal. I think it's like $238 in filing fees, but the amount at issue has to be less than $6,000 if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think you can do it with a $10,000 vehicle. So I think you're going to wind up doing a summary probate. That would be the category above $6,000, but below a formal probate, which is $75,000.
Yeah. All right. A summary, what'd you call it?
Summary administration. There's essentially 3 tiers to probate. You've got the disposition without administration, the summary administration for estates of less than $75,000, and then you've got $75,000 or greater would be a formal administration.
And is there any way she could say that I'm giving this car away as a gift, and then it's not considered above $6,000?
Maybe. I mean, it's just going to depend on the transfer from the deceased brother is the critical first step. You're sort of focusing on the transfer from the sister to you. She can call it whatever she wants once she has the title. She can call it a gift, a sale, or anything. But the transfer from the brother, the late brother, to the living sister as the heir at law is going to be an inheritance. And
Right.
that's you're going to have to show, and you're going to have to follow in good faith that that is the value at fair market. It's not some sort of sweetheart deal.
Right. Okay. The last thing I'm going to tell you, I listened to you on 860 The Answer.
Well, I appreciate that, and Joe really appreciates that too. He's celebrating in the production booth right now.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Robert. Have a great day. Okay.
Thank you for your help.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
All righty. You're listening to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. And Robert, wrapping up his call, opens up a studio line, so try to get in now. 877-943-9673. And you can call in with your legal question on any topic at all, or you can call in to talk to us about short-term rentals, which is our topic of conversation today. And as I mentioned, we have a couple of special guests in studio. We have John Pfanstiehl and his wife, Kelly Cicerik, with the organization Homes Not Hotels, IRB.org. And again, John, Kelly, again, welcome to the show. And I know you guys heard my sort of preamble or recap of sort of the origin story of where we are today on short-term rentals. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to add, or any points you'd like to unpack in a little more detail from that?
Well, after the Attorney General opinion, there's a chance that we may be able to get our grandfathered status back. Indian Rocks Beach had a 3-month minimum in residential neighborhoods. So we're hoping that we'll be able to litigate. Holmes Beach has had some action that they were able to establish some duration and frequency for their residentials. And the other point is that we're not against short-term rentals. There are and have been short-term rentals in areas that were zoned for it, ones that were mixed use, ones that were tourist. It's just that this invasion of these basically transient lodgings in what were once residential neighborhoods is the concern. People are literally being forced out of their houses because they just can't stand the constant aggravation of people coming in for a weekend and partying.
So if you have an opinion on that, give us a call now, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. That's your live and local studio line. Give us a call. We'll get you right on the air, 877-943-9673, or email me, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. But it's always more fun on radio to just talk to you live on the air. So give us a call, 877-943-9673. Yeah, how it kind of came to my attention that it was sort of coming back up in discussion was the yard signs. Can you talk a little bit about the yard signs that just sort of started spreading throughout the neighborhood there in Indian Rocks Beach?
Yes, on Harbor Drive, for instance, there's now 100 different homeowners that have a yard sign in, and that's just visual proof. The people that have investments and short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods say that 99% of them have no problem. But I think it's just pretty clear if you see 100 residences putting these sort of garish-looking signs out in their yard, that they're angry about what's happened to them. And all you have to do is walk through the neighborhood and talk to people who live next door to a short-term rental, and you'll find out what the real story is. Just so people can understand, we have a 7-foot side yard setback in Indian Rocks Beach. So if you have a dozen or 2 dozen people in the yard next to you, looking over your fence, which is only waist high near the water, looking at, your 18-year-old daughter in the pool or your 7-year-old son, it's a whole lot different world when you have a different dozen or 2 dozen people every weekend looking into your property, or if they're out on the dock, literally looking into your rear windows, as opposed to having a neighbor, 2 or 3 people that you've known for 5 years, 10 years, 30 years.
Yeah. And it's a great topic. So give us a call now if you have an opinion. Maybe you own an Airbnb. Maybe you've stayed at an Airbnb in Indian Rocks Beach or another community, or maybe you're a property owner in a different city who's having a different kind of battle that's similar over short-term rentals, or maybe your city or area neighborhood where you're in has reached a solution that's alternative to the one concluded in Indian Rocks Beach. And 877-943-9673 is your number to call in with your legal question or your opinion on short-term rentals. 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. Your email is patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. Again, that email address, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. So let's talk about the 2018 city ordinance while these calls get queued up. The 2018 city ordinance, as I read it, because I actually went back and, you hear neighbors talking about what they think happened. And then you just go back and you read the primary source. And I thought it was beautifully drafted, and I thought it was I felt like it was grasping. That's the word I would use to describe that ordinance. But John, I'm sure you are way more familiar and were probably integral in some of the meetings surrounding that 2018 ordinance. So can you speak to kind of what the ordinance did, what it tried to do, where it fell short in your opinion?
Well, the 2018 ordinance was basically a Band-Aid. They threw up their hands and said, we can't do anything about short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods. And instead, they tried to do some regulation on it. Kelly actually was instrumental in getting them to require that the business license is shown on any online advertising, so we can actually tell who is a short-term rental and who isn't.
The general theme, as I read it, was regulatory. It was regulating. Correct. It was surprisingly, it was focused on the safety of the renter. I remember reading a line that said, we need to make sure they know where the fire extinguishers are. And that's sort of the part that felt most grasping. When you're regulating and that's the rationale for it's a good idea. Yeah, we want them to know. But when that's the basis for your ordinance, it just sort of seems like, boy, we are really grasping at anything we can in an attempt to regulate this. So, all right, next we're going to go to Sarasota and we're going to talk to John. But before we do, if you have an opinion on this, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. Call in now with your opinion on short-term rentals, or if you have any other legal question at all. All right, let's go to Sarasota and talk to John. John, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Yes, good morning. I love your show, and I'm glad you're bringing up this topic. I have two questions. One you may have answered when I was calling in, and that was whether this was a state or a federal law. And the second question was, if an HOA has a restrictive covenant in your HOA, how is that affected by the law?
Great question. So it's sort of a twofold analysis. So federally, the rights not specifically enumerated to the federal government are reserved for the states. So that's, like one of the key questions about the Roe versus Wade decision. There's no specific ability for the federal government to regulate abortion. So, is it a default that it falls to the states? Once you get to the state, though, John, it sort of flips around the other way. It's very top down. The state controls it. And then what the state doesn't control will drop to the county, will drop to the city, will drop to the individual communities. So it's sort of a hierarchy in reverse from the federal government, where the federal government has these very specific or enumerated rights, as we refer to them. And then everything else, the residuary of it basically is left to the states. It's the opposite at the state level. With HOAs, it's a completely different bag of rules, because you, by buying into that community, are agreeing to basically bend some of those rights that you have to participate in this community. So it's sort of an actual knowing waiver of rights you may have just as a typical property owner, but you're agreeing to it to be part of this homeowners association.
Okay, so just to be clear, that this is a federal law then that came down.
No, these are state laws. No, the 1973 Home Powers Act was a state law here in the state of Florida. The 2011 House bill and the 2014 Senate bill, all at the state level.
I got you. Very good. Okay, thank you very much.
All righty, thank you, John, for calling in. Okay. 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. Give us a call with your opinion on short-term rentals. And I'd still really love to hear from someone who owns an Airbnb. And I reached out to several that I know that own them. None of them were available to participate, but I would love to hear from someone who owns an Airbnb or someone who recently stayed at an Airbnb, especially in Indian Rocks Beach, to kind of get your perspective. Because I found myself wondering, all these people walking down the streets, because you see them when you're driving in and out of Harbor Drive, and they're walking and they pass all these signs. I wonder how welcome or unwelcome it might make them feel. How does it affect them? So if you're one of those guests and you happen to have caught us on the show, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. Call in now with your legal question or your opinion on the short-term rental controversy. And as always, you can email your question, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. Kelly, do you have anything to add to that last caller?
Yes. The cities are only allowed to regulate the noise, traffic, and parking issues. And when they pass regulations, they have to apply those equally to both short-term rentals and full-time residents. So But what our city did have the ability to do is to at least track where the businesses are in the neighborhood, both short-term rental businesses and other types of businesses. We do have a business tax receipt that is issued to all businesses. So if we can at least know where businesses are and where full-time residences are, that's helpful in situations, where there's fires, where there's police calls. They know whether or not the people that in that location are there full-time, or whether or not, they're temporary stay residents that may not be familiar with the surroundings.
And I think so much of it comes down to the type of guest that you just happen to draw at random. I mean, we have Airbnbs very close to our home, and I don't even notice they're there. But I know that other neighbors have drastically different experiences. And I think that that's sort of the anxiety provoking event is you come home, you're relaxing, you pay those property taxes over there, and you want to just enjoy a quiet weekend. But here you find yourself wondering, the type of weekend I'm going to have is going to be determined potentially by whomever rented this weekend. So I think that at least from what I get from the homeowners, is the angst and what they're concerned about. It's not so much that someone is renting, it's the randomness of who it could be checking in next door.
It's all dependent on the host and the advertising platform and what they allow. If the host will allow someone to come in for 2 days and host a big Halloween party, that's going to be a much different experience for the homeowner next door than a host that is only renting out for 2 weeks at a time, in which case you might have a larger family group. And they might, be loud for 1 or 2 nights, but they might have a more chill vacation over the course of 2 weeks and not be partying every night.
Versus a bachelor or bachelorette party, which
Yes.
obviously would have a different level of intensity. So
Yeah.
877-943, call in with your opinion on short-term rentals or your legal question. 877-943-9673. We'll get you right on, and email your question, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. All right, let's go to Tampa, and we're going to talk to Alan. Alan, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Good morning. I'd love to chime in on this. I did stay at a short-term rental Airbnb in Indian Rocks Beach over Thanksgiving last year. It was a wonderful situation. We are a family. There were, I think, 6 of us and a little dog. And a great experience. I loved it, but I totally get it why you wouldn't want to be a resident in a situation environment like that, for Airbnb. I have rentals myself. They're long-term rentals. They're single-family dwellings, and I rent them, year to year. But if they were in my neighborhood and I had to put up with people coming and going every week, I would not appreciate that at all.
Well,
it would diminish the value of my property, I would feel like, as an investor.
That was my question to you. So, Alan, you're sort of a unique caller. You have actually sampled the product there in Indian Rocks Beach, and thank you for visiting our beautiful city. In addition to that, you also own your own rentals. Now, from a rent, you said all of your rentals are long-term rentals. From a landowner or landlord's perspective, would you prefer long-term rentals to short-term rentals? Which do you think are more profitable?
I have no idea about the profitability. I just know as an investor, I would not want to be in a community with short-term rentals if I'm putting $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000, $600,000, which I would love to invest eventually in Indian Rocks Beach and buy a rental that I could possibly rent to a Canadian visitor that would come in for 3 to 4 months at a time. And I use it the rest of the time, the rest of the year. So that I would be in favor of that as an investor, but never would I want to be involved in a Airbnb situation.
Canadians are such nice visitors whenever. I mean, you don't have any. They really are. They're some of the most polite people. And they're apologizing a lot when you talk to them. And you don't know why they're saying, but they say, sorry. And I don't know, why are you apologizing? They're just so innately polite, and they're wonderful guests. And it's just it's a beautiful city. So we love to share it with people. And it sounds like you said yours was a family of 6. So this was a family vacation over Thanksgiving, you said?
Yes, and we were there for, I think it was a total of 4 days. And I think we blended in well with the neighborhood. That wasn't the issue, but I totally get, hey, if there's young people coming in and they're wreaking havoc on the neighborhood by having a party, that would not be good at all.
Well,
that would be a terrible situation.
Alan, fantastic call. We appreciate you calling in. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Kelly, you have something to add?
We have a 7-bedroom Airbnb down the street from us. And when you get into 7 bedrooms, you lend yourself into becoming an event center. And, the host that wants to fill a 7-bedroom might be tempted to rent to people that want to have weddings and large college reunions. And on the east coast of Florida, this has even morphed into a problem where people will rent out a home during spring break, and then they will have pop-up parties, and they will sell tickets online. They don't announce the location of the vacation rental until just a couple hours before the event, but they are selling tickets and creating events. I mean, it's like nightclubs,
Well,
sometimes on a weekly basis.
so if you have an opinion on that, 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. And for those of you just joining us, today we are discussing the short-term rentals controversy currently embroiled in the city of Indian Rocks Beach. And my guests today are John Fansteel and his bride, Kelly Cicerek.
Yes.
And they are with Homes Not Hotels, IRB.org. And we're inviting you to call in. Maybe you're a city official listening. You want to participate. We're happy to hear your opinion. Maybe you own Airbnbs. We'd love to hear your opinion as well. And that was a fantastic call from Alan because, like I said, he was sort of the best of both worlds. He had participated in IRB as a guest, but he owns his own. So he seemed to sort of understand both sides of the coin. So if you want to call in and express your opinion, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673, or email me, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. All right, let's go to Punta Gorda and let's talk to Jerry. Jerry, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Jerry.
John, Kelly.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'm like caught between a rock and a hard place. I've stayed at Airbnb back in Michigan, California, Hawaii for short term and long term. Now, my issue right now, and I don't know if there's anything that I or anybody can do, because the city ordinance says that there was to be no businesses in our area. And I wanted to go to city council, and I was advised not to. Just roll with the punches. And I knew there was going to be an issue because they opened up a dog walking place. They took up 3 houses. So now I've got dogs walking at all hours of the day, all hours of the night. Yeah, sure, there are people that are up the road in the Airbnbs that are polite. They talk to you. You can get to know, like, who's in your neighborhood. But now it's like, you guys were saying it's a party. That's all they want to do is run out to parties. I've never heard of selling tickets, but I'll have to look that up. It's just very aggravating, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to leave my neighborhood. I love this corner lot. This is our paradise. It's the first house that my wife ever owned. She always rented. And I feel like it's a betrayal to the neighborhood.
Hey, Jerry,
but I'm telling you what, man.
Jerry, Kelly has a question for you.
So you have
Go ahead, Kelly.
you have a business located next door to you that does dog walking and houses a lot of dogs on premise?
Well, it's not next door to me. It's like the block behind me. The block behind me on Palm in Punta Gorda, up of a Kia Star. Now they took up 3 houses. They have different buildings. Like this one's for swimming and exercise. This one is for that. This one is for that. Well, it says come in. All are welcome. So I just decided, well, I'll just say I got a dog, which I do, and see what they have to say. They told me to get off their property. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? You are not welcome here, sir. It's like, I'm nobody. But then I knew it was going to happen. They started the Airbnbs up the road. People they're like, oh, there's good. And I don't want to betray anybody, but it's just not the time for this type of thing to be happening. And I just feel lost and don't know what to do about it. But you
Well,
guys got my mind. Anyways, go ahead.
it sounds like a rough spot, Jerry, for sure, because you live in the community. So while you want to express your opinion, these are still neighbors. And that's why, when we address the topic on the show today, I very much wanted to make it more of an open forum and a dialogue, sort of with the overarching goal, helping each side understand the other side's position a little better and kind of soften so that there's middle ground in any situation, sort of in a Venn diagram. There's that overlap where you can reach a happy settlement and everyone can go away happy to a certain degree. And it sounds to me like that's what's going to happen there in Punta Gorda, Jerry. It's just one of those situations where both sides are going to have to soften before anything starts feeling better. But that sort of hostility is not any way to feel. No one deserves to come home to a hostile mood, Jerry. And I'm sorry you had that interaction.
No, there's nothing for you to be sorry about, and I don't want to be on the soapbox and take up your whole show. But believe me, if you want to talk to me, I talk to everybody. There's nothing for me to hide. But that's what it feels like I do now. I hide in my own cave.
Well, Jerry,
because I'm afraid to confront people.
Well, Jerry, we appreciate you calling in, and I hope things get better. Call back in if there's any update down there in Punta Gorda in the future, okay?
Do you have a phone number for you, Patrick? I heard you have a phone number or a website I can go to, email. How do I get in touch with you?
So you can reach me directly at 877-754-6764. For everyone listening, that's the office line. You can call Monday through Friday. The office opens at 8 a.m. every day. 877-754-6764. That's the number to call to speak to me, to schedule an appointment. And if you want to schedule in Sarasota, which would probably be the closest to Punta Gorda, the Clearwater location, or any of our office locations, it's the one number, 877-754-6764, Jerry.
Thank you. I've got it written down, Patrick. I don't know if I'll reach out Monday, Tuesday, whenever, but I will reach out. Hey, do you know where that happening is at downtown in Tampa right now?
I'm without knowledge. I have not heard any. Joe, or do we have any news of anything going on downtown Tampa?
Well, the Bone is sponsoring an event, I thought, today.
Oh, are they?
Well,
is this the Halloween? Is this the Halloween event?
No.
Okay, I'm without knowledge. Obviously. Yeah, I was not on that email, but if they are having an event today, good luck to them. I'm not going to be there. So, Jerry, you enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay?
All right. God bless.
God bless you. Bye-bye. All right, 877-943-9673. Call in with your opinion on short-term rentals, or if you have an experience with short-term rentals. We'd love to hear your experience with one. 877-943-9673, or email me, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. And before we go to Lutz and talk to John, I want to get in studio John to provide some follow-up commentary. John?
Speaking directly to what Jerry was talking about, I think that's the crux of the problem, is that words have meaning, and they designated some zones for residential and some for commercial, of course, some for mixed use. And when you start putting commercial in residential, it's Orwellian. It's like saying war is peace.
Well, someone told me in doing my show prep, someone reached out and said, "Hey, love the show idea. Did you know that within a 3-mile span of Indian Rocks Beach, there's 12 different zonings or something like that?" I mean, and so
there are a number of them. I don't know if it's exactly 12.
And so that was the crux of this comment, was essentially, shouldn't these Airbnbs have to have their own zoning? And
yes.
maybe that would.
Yeah, and some cities have sought to have individual areas where they're permitted, and certain cities have also limited or attempted to limit spacing.
Right.
In Airbnbs.
Well, just something to give her a little relief. And it sounds again like that's a step and a measure to regulate. It's not necessarily a prohibition. It's just a regulation, so to speak. All righty, let's go to a very patient John in Lutz. John, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, John.
I'm going to have a unique perspective here, because when I travel, we stay at Airbnbs. I own 2 of them. And I live in Redington Beach. One of my Airbnbs is in Redington Beach. Number one, you check your people out. If it looks like it's going to be a party, you don't rent to that person.
Well, let me
if
ask you a
party
follow-up question to that, John.
Go ahead.
What do you do to check them out? Like, are you going like full tilt, hiring a private investigator to like do some background checks on them, or are you just checking out their social media? What level of scrutiny are you checking them out?
Well, obviously, one of the things I do is scour their social media, look and see not what they're planning on doing. What did they do last weekend or last holiday? Go and look at it. See, oh, hey, it looks like they were X place and had a great time. Doesn't look like anything got too out of hand. You also have cameras on the outside. If it looks wrong, handle it. My second property that I have is over in Davenport. Davenport is a city near Orlando where the House of Mouse is. And we have that rented out most of the time for a week at a time, but a lot of times it is a 3-day minimum is what we have. And we have probably one of the prettiest houses over there. What I see is the houses where you have absentee owners that aren't there for the betterment of the neighborhood. They're there for their quick cash grab of having an Airbnb. That's where the problem involves.
Can I ask you a
That's
question?
where I think the biggest issue is the properties look run down, and that can affect values. However,
hey, John, Kelly wants to ask a question, but before we do, I think you're right. I have some neighbors who own Airbnbs in our community, and they're some of the most fastidious Airbnb owners. They make sure the property's nice. They make sure everything's great. And if a neighbor does complain about something, they're real quick to jump on it, say, hey, let me get this remedied right away. But you're right. Not everyone is so attentive. So I think that's part of the problem here. It's equal parts who's the guest going to be and what sort of property owner are you going to get in the draw. There's many, many moving parts here. But Kelly, you had a question for John?
Yeah, John, it sounds like you do a really good job of checking your renters out, but I wanted to ask you if you also check them in, because I know some properties just have a door code and they don't meet the tenants when they move in. So they don't really know how many cars are pulling up or if the people who really rented the place are the ones that are going in there.
Oh, absolutely. I may not be able to be at the house, but all of the properties have a ring style system that you have to be there, show your driver's license with your pretty little face. There's cameras on the outside of the house where I can see where people are parked. I know what's going on the property.
That driver's license is your personal requirement, right? Not a...
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. That's more like a hotel, and then you have much more control. I think that's smart.
Well, John, keep up the good work. It sounds like you're one of the good ones, and we appreciate your responsible property ownership and Airbnb-ing. So, John, thanks for calling into the show.
Not a problem.
All righty. Bye-bye. All righty. Listen to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. This is Attorney Patrick Smith, and I have my special guest with me today. We have John Pfanstiel and his wife, Kelly Cicerek, and they are with homesnothotelsirb.org. So we're discussing short-term rentals. You can call in with your opinion. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now. Email your question, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. All right, next, let's go to St. Pete and let's talk to Matt. Matt, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, Patrick, I was just going to weigh in about that Airbnb. I own an Airbnb in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
I actually live on site. I have a garage apartment in the back that I rent out. And in terms of profitability, I heard you ask a caller earlier about that. I'm netting like 20 grand just in this 400 square foot garage apartment in the back of my house.
20
Airbnb.
20 grand a year?
Yearly. So, you know.
That'll pay your property taxes.
Yes, more than pays the property taxes on this property. It's close to downtown, but I think the profitability margin in Airbnb versus long-term renting is what makes people just want to do Airbnb over doing a long-term renting, because it's just so profitable.
Well,
Yeah.
have you ever had any issue with neighbors complaining about the parties to whom you rented?
You know what's funny? You asked that question. My neighbor asked me how I set everything up, and he's doing it now.
So you're
'Cause
contagious.
yeah, I'm contagious. It's horrible.
Well,
But
that's
we don't
my
live
point.
on the water. We have 6-foot fences, and we vet our guests as well, as John did.
Well, it sounds to
You
me
know.
like, what I love to hear is, because I believe that our government is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And it sounds to me, we talked a lot at the start about, because the one of the earlier callers about whether or not this was federal, state, and we sort of walked through the hierarchy. But ultimately, the power resides with the individual homeowner. And because
That's what I believe.
it's the government of the people, and the people ultimately hold the power. So we get calls from Matt's of the world and John's of the world, John from Lutz, or Lutz, who was our just last caller. And he, another one who's being super responsible and attentive. And I was talking about my neighbors who are super responsible, attentive Airbnbers, but not everyone is so dedicated to it. But it's good to hear that there are so many good Airbnb owners out there, Matt, and they're doing good work to make sure that, the income production doesn't compromise the neighborhood quality, so to speak.
Exactly. And just because they're so profitable, if you have a flippant Airbnb owner, they can maybe make an issue for neighborhoods, if they're not vetting their guests properly. So,
Matt, great. Appreciate you calling in. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay?
You too. Take care.
Yes, sir. All righty, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. And before we go to Tammy in Sarasota, we have a very patient Ronald who's been on the line. Ronald, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Ronald, are you there? Ronald, did you fall asleep on hold? Hey, Ronald.
Can you hear me?
Ronald.
No.
We can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
How can we help you, Ronald?
I signed a satisfaction of mortgage, and I lost these checks. Am I in danger of losing the money if the owner doesn't acknowledge the loss, or if they haven't cashed them?
So you received money that enticed you to sign a satisfaction and release of mortgage. That's accurate?
Yeah, and the checks are gone.
What happened to them?
I lost them or misplaced them.
Okay. Well, I would ask them immediately for a new check, and I think that could make...
That takes 90 days, the banks say. And in the interim, if the payee denies or says, okay, I'm back, it's gone. The transaction is over.
No. It's not going to be a situation where the check's inadvertently misplaced and somehow that forgives their indebtedness. I think ultimately, if they basically say, well, I guess you losing the check means we don't have to pay or rewrite the check, it would be some sort of action in equity that you could bring against them in civil litigation. Scott Smothers is our guy who does those cases for us. So no, I wouldn't worry about your loss of the paper check is not a waiver of your right to the money, Ronald. So I wouldn't lose any sleep over that, but I would get on top of a replacement check and put them on notice that the original check has been lost and needs to be canceled immediately.
Yes, I thank you. And another case is that I bought a vehicle and the owner somehow kept the title or stole it back and doesn't acknowledge the transaction.
Did you have a bill of sale from the purchase?
Negative.
And that's the mistake, Ronald. That's the mistake. If you don't protect yourself with a bill of sale, you have no proof that you bought that particular property. So if you want to write down the facts, call me at the office next week. I'll see what we can do to put you in touch with Scott Smothers about bringing some sort of action in equity against that party. But it's going to be really tough to do without a really good paper trail since there's no bill of sale there.
I thank you.
Ronald, thank you for calling in. Have a great Saturday, okay? All righty, guys. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, 877-943-9673 to be part of today's show, 877-943-9673. Give us a call now, live and local, with your opinion on short-term rentals, or you can call in with any other legal question at all. And now let's go to Sarasota and let's talk to Tammy. Tammy, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
How are you doing?
I'm great, Tammy. How can we help you?
So I have a home in Sarasota, and I use one of the rooms in my home for Airbnb and Furnish Finder. So that's a short-term, well, it could be short-term or long-term app that I use for renting to travel nurses. And I've had a wonderful, wonderful experience. I've been with Airbnb for about 6 years. But I do in Sarasota now have neighbors that are not happy with the fact that I have an Airbnb in my home.
What are their complaints, Tammy? What are the specifics? What are they unhappy with?
They don't like having strangers in their neighborhood.
But there's strangers in every neighborhood. That seems, I mean, I guess that's another moving part. I guess we've talked about, you have the randomness of the Airbnb owner and you have the randomness of the guest, but we hadn't really taken into equation the sort of calculus behind the generally disgruntled neighbor who's unhappy with any stranger in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Tammy. Great call. I appreciate
they
you.
Have
go ahead.
They have run away. Another Airbnb, a couple that used their home for Airbnb, where we were actually in our home. So we stay in our homes. We vet our people, like the other gentleman said on the phone call. We vet them very carefully. With Furnish Finder, I do a 3 targeted interview. I do a initial interview. I do a FaceTime interview, and then I do a final interview before I allow anyone to come into the house. So it is all about the owners of these Airbnbs and making this a good, well-rounded, good experience for everybody as far as the community and the Airbnb owner.
Well, Tammy, again, it sounds like you're one of the good ones. Like we had John from Lutz earlier in the show, and several callers also who are diligent, great Airbnb owners, and we appreciate you guys being some of the good ones out there. And it sounds like you're dealing with more the irrational or the high maintenance neighbor who's just generally unhappy about everything there, Tammy. Am I wrong about that?
No, that's correct. They think they own the neighborhood and don't like when something different comes into their community. And, I, like one of the other people say, like if something happens where I have a car that I don't like, or a van that drives up, or a truck that I don't think is appropriate, I let the owners know, the Airbnb people know this won't work for me. So if, so I don't extend the visit if I don't like what's happening. It's in my home, so I'm very careful.
Well, and you're not afraid to say no, and that's the most powerful weapon you have there to protect the neighborhood, is to turn someone away. So, Tammy, we appreciate the call. Have a great Saturday, okay?
Thank you.
All righty. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, 877-943-9673. Let's quickly go back to Sarasota. Let's talk to Bill. Bill, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Bill, I have about a minute.
Okay, my question is, with the lady just before and the gentleman with a 400 square foot apartment in the back, does that change his homestead or the tax structure going from residential to commercial?
Yeah, I think it would, because I don't think you could claim the entire thing was primary residence if you're renting part of it out. So I think you would probably lose part of that homestead exemption there if the property is homestead to begin with. It may not be homesteaded at all. But if it is, I think any part you rent out, I think you potentially lose the right to claim that as primary residence by definition, Bill. But great question.
And the second question, does it change the tax structure from residential to commercial?
I think that's community by community. I think it's going to go municipality by municipality and how they define it. So I think you'd have to check your local ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. All righty, this is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. A very special thank you to John and Kelly for being here today with Homes Not Hotels, IRB.org. We have our Gators prediction. My good buddy Tuna, that I used to play baseball with, was messaging me because I posted last night the Gators baseball team won the Fall Classic against Georgia, and he said, easy, easy. Yeah, I'm kind of cringing about today. If the Gators win this one, it will be super close. So I'll call it 31-30 Florida. I'll be a true fan, 31-30 Florida. Everyone stay safe, God bless, and go Gators.